and we will be able to start this panel about biogas and the digital revolution. So AD sector is a growing sector, and yeah, we are tackling greenhouse gases emission. We have a very big challenge to face in the coming years, and we are happy to see that now digitalization, sorry, is coming to the biogas sector. So we need it to try to be able to going faster, to be stronger, and to have more impact yeah, on the industry. So today we'll have three speakers yeah, speaking around different solutions about digitalization. I'm Charlotte Marcel, so technology strategy lead at ADBA and WBA, so I yeah, support the industry from a technical point of view. So I'm not a specialist about IoT, blockchain, or cryptocurrency, but I guess some of our panelists are. So today we'll have Kristina Rabecaite, CEO and founder of PPAYA. And so yeah, Kristina identified a gap in the market for a renewable platform that could automatically automated daily auctions, ensuring energy producers get the best prices. So you will know about gas purchase agreements, power purchase agreements, incorporating the blockchain. Then Gareth Selby, CTO and founder of Inclusive Energy, will introduce us about a very clever solution he's developed for the Global South to connect the AD plants and value the CO2. And last but not least, Josh Redet, founder of the Easy Crypto Hunter, will explain us how cryptocurrency mining can monetize AD using the power generation. Josh is a leader in the cryptocurrency industry, advising the biggest names, EU Parliament and the UK Home Office. So first, I'm really delighted to invite Kristina Rabecaite for the first speak. You can give a big applause for her. Thank you.
Hello, just to warn you, PPAYA's won 2 awards last night. We had quite a late finish, so be kind on the questions if you can. But just to start, so my name is Kristina. I'm the founder and CEO of PPAYA, which is an automated PPA marketplace. So I'm sure that most of you here have been following the market pretty closely in the last couple of years, and you know what happened when and what caused the market prices to go absolutely mad. Therefore, I'm not going to go into too much detail to talk about all the different events that we've seen, but instead, I want to talk about how the recent energy crisis reshaped the PPA market and how to secure the best power price for your power. So what's changed in the market in the last 24 months? So power prices have tripled, quadrupled. Sometimes it's went 6 times higher than we've seen sort of two or so years ago. The market consolidated quite significantly. Over 30 suppliers have gone under as well. Bid and offer spreads went from about 50p to sometimes £100 on certain days. And what that means is that we now, utilities are struggling to work out where the actual baseload price is in the market. Because if somebody's selling at £70 and somebody wants to buy at 50, how do you meet in the middle? So that's one of the big things that sort of started happening with the spreads. And obviously market volatility has become a norm now, but obviously that comes with a lot of risk for the utilities that have to manage it. So just to put it in perspective, if you traded 3 megawatts of solar, which is quite a small site, for 12 months, and you need to buy that contract back, So a 12-month hedge, and if the price has gone up by about £20 since then, that would cost around £35,000 to a utility to actually purchase that volume back. If the price has gone up by £100, you're looking at around £200,000 exposure. So just to put it in perspective, if you get your contract start date wrong, and you see what sort of exposure that utilities are having to deal with, for sort of considerably small volumes historically, and if you can imagine, they've got transmission connected winds and very, very large sites, and that would be multi-million-pound losses for them to sort of face up, which is why your risk premiums would have gone up recently. So how did the recent market changes impact suppliers? And I guess, as I said, the market has consolidated quite a lot. So now the big six are sort of back in charge again, to the point where 90% of our customers would rather take a lower price than sign with a small utility. That sort of put them back in the power position where they were about 10 years ago. And it's really sad because startups, when they came in, they really challenged the market. They brought innovation, they brought competitive prices, and now we're sort of almost having to start over. So one of the graphs that I wanted to share with you today is the risk premiums and what has been happening to them. The first graph is showing you a pound per megawatt hour value, and the other one is a percentage. So historically, for a wind or a solar site, you'd be charged around £2.5, maybe £4 for wind on a sort of really bad season. Suppliers used to recalculate their risks every couple of months, every quarter, and they used to stay pretty flat. Now what we're seeing is that suppliers are recalculating their risk premiums daily. And you can see that the more volatile the market is, the more illiquid the market is on certain days, the higher the risk premiums are, to the point where it could be up to 40% of your entire PPA contract just paying out to risk premiums. Therefore, it's very, very important that you are sort of watching the market really closely. You have conversations with the utilities and ask them questions about, what's the market liquidity today? Are there many trades happening in the market? And that will sort of give you a bit of information whether it's a good or a bad day to lock in. So new PPA structures have come out recently as well. So one thing that a lot of suppliers have now got in common is that they're trying to pass more risk to the generators. So 2 years ago, generator wouldn't have even thought about having to take any risk on, right? You would get 100% fix. So whatever, however many megawatt hours you generate, you'd get the same price, and you wouldn't even worry about any sort of exposure. Now, some suppliers still fix everything at 100%, but they might not fix longer than 12 months. On top of that, even if you think you've got something that's 100% fixed, you need to look at your contracts and see what the tolerance levels are. Because what if your site underperforms by 10 or 15%? In your contract, your supplier might be able to pass the risk back to you. And some of the suppliers are not even hedging 100% anymore. What that allows them to do, so they will hedge 80% of your volume, and then they will have 20% as a leeway for themselves to sort of manage their books, which means that they're sort of passing some of the risk to you and taking that pressure off themselves. So as you can see, a lot of suppliers have changed the way they price to adapt to the new market conditions, putting generators in a position where they have to take more risk than they have before. So how can you support suppliers to reduce your risk premiums? So first of all, I think if you let your supplier know that you're able to accept an offer in under 15 minutes, that will make a huge difference. Because think about it, every hour will cost you about £1. So the faster you can accept the offer, the less you're going to be paying out to the trading desk that is having to hold the prices for you. Another thing, I guess, with the consolidation in the market, and mind you, the market is still extremely manual, so everything is still done by 2 or 3 individuals, even in the big utilities. So if we reduce the amount of requests that we send them, so if you just have tools where you can look at the market yourself and not constantly call your utilities, that will take the pressure off of them and hopefully actually get you an offer when you need it when the volume of requests is reduced. So just to tell you a bit more about what PPAYA does. So we, as I said, we're a marketplace for PPAs, and we're trying, because I come from sort of a utility background and I've executed hundreds and hundreds of PPAs manually myself, and I guess that's where I sort of decided that, you know, 90% of these PPAs should not be done manually and they can be executed in an automated way, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to automate as much of the process as we possibly can, so generators can take ownership, run quotes for themselves. So you've got your own quote tool. You can find out exactly what you can earn without having to ring utilities and ask them any questions. We've built a tool that I call the slider, and what the slider allows you to do is set yourself a calculated target price and then leave it with us, and we will run automated auctions and try and achieve those prices for you on your behalf. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kristina. Very interesting indeed. So I didn't say that, please, if you have some questions, save them for the end. We'll have all the questions and answer at the end of the 3 presentations. So write them down or keep them in your head. So yeah, Gareth, please, will come and speak about inclusive energy solutions for biogas.
Hi, nice to meet you. So I'll be talking about our technology, which is, we actually work in a very different markets. So we're typically in the kind of low to middle income countries or global south. So our mission as a company is to unlock value in those markets, basically. It's kind of the understanding that there's an intrinsic value in those markets, and currently that is not being unlocked at the moment. We're kind of going down 2 pathways simultaneously. One that you'll be less interested in, which is the solar pathway. So we're creating charge controllers and digitally monitoring that. And a big part of our business is obviously the biogas side. The key thing we're trying to deal with there is that 2.7 billion people are cooking on harmful wood fuels across the globe. Much bigger problem actually than the unelectrified, which stands at about 850 million people. So that's kind of where our passion really lies. Just to introduce the kind of 2 products before we get onto kind of data insights and what we're doing on carbon markets. So we have two digitally connected products. The top one is called Cloud Solar, which connects generally home solar up to productive use systems to our internet. It's kind of Internet of Things charge controller that connects it to the software. And then we've got the same product but in the biogas sector. So it's an Internet of Things device. You can work anywhere in the world and connects small to medium, and we're now working in kind of industrialized scale biogas in India to our IoT monitoring platform. The value proposition that we're kind of offering to our customers, for the small scale customers, it's about pay-as-you-go flexible payment, so you can kind of digitally bill a customer. They don't have to buy a biogas plant up front. So a poor farmer, let's say in Kenya, can just take a biogas plant and then pay as they go for the electricity. There's the reduced repair and maintenance, so we're using a lot of predictive maintenance techniques to then improve the performance of those biogas plants. And then the big thing we're working on is affordable carbon offsets, and I'll touch on that in a minute. So this is kind of what the solar system typically looks like. That's a project in a slum in India. And then this is kind of the same thing for the biogas products. And we've actually got this same product installed on this instance here again is in a slum, I think, in India, but we've got the same product actually installed on very large biogas plants in India where they're bottling the gas and then connecting it to a grid, and we can kind of facilitate both markets. And this just gives you an idea of kind of how the software looks. So it's giving the end user, which is a business, insight into kind of hour by hour performance of their customers. So through this technology, we created the technology in 2018, and we've installed it now across, I think we're about 33 different countries in the global south. We've got over, I need to update these figures, it was 60 million hourly data reports as of Christmas, and it just keeps going up and up. And we've got large-scale monitoring projects funded by governments in Kenya, Uganda, and Indonesia. We've got 2 academic papers published based on that data, and we're just going to look at some of the data insights that we uncover through this technology. So this is the sort of thing that we are presenting to our customer. So if I just explain this graph on the right, you've got pressure, which is the orange line, which is going up and down as the biogas plant is used. So when it's full, the orange line goes up, and when it's being used, the pressure goes down in the system. And then you've got the green line, which is the flow rate. So whenever they're cooking, the flow goes up, and naturally when they're not cooking, it goes down. That's kind of the typical use we're hoping for. But what you see here is there's actually errors that are appearing in the usage of this biogas plant, and we'll just dive into those a little bit deeper. So this is one project that I have to say was actually particularly poor performing, so I'll caveat that before I kind of alarm people about performance of biogas generally. So in this project we only found, I think it's about 20% of biogas plants that were actually working well, or considered kind of economically well working, and there was a whole load of issues from venting, leaking, underuse, overuse, etc., which we'll look into in a bit more detail. So this is 20% of those biogas plants were leaking, and this is what leaking looks like. You can see these kind of very small blue bars at the bottom there, and then the big blue bars when they're actually cooking. So through the small blue bars represent a very low flow that isn't useful for cooking or any productive use. So we know that that's most likely a leak, and we can kind of track that. This particular customer thought it was our sensors that were wrong, and we got them to cut in a valve either side of our sensor and turn the 2 valves off and see what happens. And you can see this middle section here, of course the flow rate drops to 0, and then they realized they had a leak, and it turned out the leak was from a stove, and they had something like 8,000 of these stoves across thousands of households, all representing the same leak where the hydrogen sulfide was corroding the valve. So that's the kind of sort of impact we can have. The other big thing that we found is venting. So where the pressure gets to the top line here and it flattens out, that's when the pressure is getting to overpressure, and then it's starting to release the biogas through the safety valve. And as you can see here, you've got a customer where more than half the time they're just leaking biogas to atmosphere. And in this particular trial, almost 50% of those biogas plants were having that behavior. This is particularly bad in this instance. And then this is just some of the work we're doing on looking at, you can start to look at thousands of biogas plants together, and then you can start to look for the outliers, where the errors are, where the issues are. And what we've started doing now is automating that all in the back end. So we were doing it manually, looking at the graphs, intervening with our customers. Now the software automatically picks up those leaks and those venting, and we have notifications and apps for the individual customer. And this is what it looks like on the software. So you've got a particular biogas program here, 121 biogas plants, and it can show them exactly how many were leaking or venting in a specific time period. And then for each individual biogas plant, you can then look at the leaking events and things like that specifically. And we've created an app for the end user now, because we realized that the end user was really the one that we need to have an impact with. So now you get notifications of these events occurring. This is my final slide, which is looking at carbon credits. So this is our big area of work, and what we're trying to do is leverage the better insights offered through digital monitoring to both increase the carbon credit value, which is particularly poor for biogas, despite it being this incredible technology with multiple benefits. And then at the same time, improve the performance of the biogas plants, both for the user and for the operators. So improving the design of the biogas plants, reducing leaking, reducing venting, and just getting better value for money, ultimately for the end customer. And we're just about to release a report that's funded by the UN and the Clean Cooking Alliance. This graph is taken from it, where we're just comparing the different digital monitoring methodologies, which is the voluntary gold standard and UNFCCC standard, which are the two that are most widely applied. And this graph here just shows the cost of going digital versus the cost of just doing it the standard way, where you send a person out on a motorbike to monitor the kind of biogas plants. At the moment, what we're seeing is that there is definitely a cost reduction in going digital, and it's a real benefit. But we don't think the benefit is valued enough, and that's the big area that we're working on at the moment. Please do talk to me about any of those aspects after the talk. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Gareth. Very, very interesting also. We'll then go to the cryptocurrency topic with Josh Ridet, and so we'll know more how we can link AD and cryptocurrency. Josh.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. So what I have for you today is probably going to be a little bit different than everything. So no doubt you're all sat there thinking, what the hell is this bloke doing talking about crypto at an AD event? So don't worry, hopefully I'll be able to explain. So I'll give you a quick introduction. No doubt there'll be some time for some questions, but I'm just going to give you a whistle-stop tour of what this looks like and how it can work for you guys. So the number that you see there is not incorrect. There's some pretty stupidly high numbers attached to crypto, and we've been able to demonstrate this now over the 5 years that we've operated in the UK and all the sites that we're over. So ultimately, I'm the CEO of a company called Easy Crypto Hunter. We're based in Manchester, where we hand manufacture all of our posh computers that service the industry. So effectively, we're the largest company. We partnered with the British Hydro Association. We work a lot in ABDA. We're on over 70 renewable sites across the UK, and about 20-25 of those currently are AD sites. So irrespective of that, we've got about 300 clients, and a lot of our clients simply just pull energy from the grid, because also the products are so profitable even from grid energy. When you combine it in the renewable sector, it's just the cherry on top, which is really lovely. So typically we help farmers, AD sites, renewable energy suppliers, providers, distributors. Effectively, what we do in a nutshell, if we boil it all down to its raw minimum in terms of what you guys are interested in, is maximizing pence per kilowatt. Obviously, people like Kristina and the wonderful people doing the PPA stuff can get that better kind of fixed tariff. But what do you do with that power? Is there an even better way to use it, particularly for sites that maybe have constrained power or have a little bit more juice to give? We can use that power on site directly and make really good returns. So ultimately, I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs. There's lots of issues that can come from the renewable energy sector, particularly people in AD, depending on finance and multitude of other options, you can end up with typically a 8, 12, 15-year payback for certain AD sites. What we like to do is put a load of kit on your site and reduce the ROI of the entire operation by a number of years very substantially, and raise those pence per kilowatt rates dramatically above what anyone ever thought was possible. So this is effectively the kind of messaging for today. This is for everyone. You don't need renewable energy. We have lots of our devices plugged into warehouses, bedrooms, basements, garages, anywhere with a plug socket and internet connection, but obviously for today's purpose, we're specifically talking about AD. So the proposal is really very simple. In a nutshell, we're going to turn your AD facility into a mini data center, and we're going to use the power on site, and the workload that the computers do on site is so high value, you effectively double, triple, quadruple, 10x your pence per kilowatt. And that is a pretty attractive thing, because typically, in order to make money from your renewable site, you've had government contracts, DNOs, red tape, contracts, paperwork, and loads of other things that get in the way, whereas we have a solution where you can plug something in tomorrow and start earning, which is quite attractive. So effectively, yes, it's a machine that pays you. And a lot of people often look at us when we go through this and think that we're crazy, because how do you just have a machine that pays you? Well, I guess to some extent an AD machine is itself. But ultimately, in a modern world, this is kind of how things work. So everyone thinks that we're mad, but many of you in this room will have websites. And already, without you realizing it, you're already doing this, because it's very common that all of you sat here now are probably paying 20, 30, 40 pounds a month to GoDaddy or a relevant website hosting company just to keep your website online. And no one ever stops to think to see, well, what am I actually paying for there? Well, you're paying to rent their computer servers to keep your website online. Everything digital has a physical hardware data center activity. So if you have a website, you pay hosting, and the owner of those computer servers, GoDaddy in that instance, would get paid. So you're renting posh computer power. You've done it for 20, 30 years, nothing special. That's exactly what we do. We manufacture the posh computers, you can buy them, you put them on your site, and you get paid in crypto as a thank you for providing service to those blockchain networks. It's really not more complicated than that. So how then does this benefit you directly? So effectively what we're saying is you can turn your farm into a mini data center and up value the energy that you're producing on site. So how much can you really earn? That's really what everyone's interested in. If it sounds too good to be true, maybe it is. So let's have a look at the numbers. So thankfully we've been going quite a good number of years now. We're the largest manufacturer of this equipment in the UK. We've just had an Amazon Prime documentary come out about the business that I'll be happy to send you all links to. You can have a little look there. They followed us around with a camera crew for a couple of months and saw some sites in operation, called Crypto Farmer, if you'd like to have a look. But effectively this is what the figures look like. So depending on your strategy, there's different ways that you can run this. So you have a posh computer, it does its computations, it provides all this wonderful service to the blockchain sector, and you get paid every day. What you choose to do with those crypto coins is up to you. Sell them every day, sell them every week, keep them and wait for the market to increase a little bit. So we've kind of got two different scenarios that we've worked through here. So if you wanted to sell your coins at the end of every year, that was about 196% return. And if you sold them at the end of a 4-year period, obviously the cryptocurrency market's grown quite nicely over the last 4 years, it was close to a 300% return at 279%. So what does that look like in English? Let's just kind of get some context. So again, here you can see this is a trend graph of the crypto market. So we had a really crazy year last year and things have come back down a little bit, but are still up 500% in the past 5 years. So this is what the numbers look like. If you would have, the red lines indicate each individual year. So if you'd have sold your coins at the end of every 12-month period, you'd have got around 196% return on the price of the product. And then if you'd have kept the coins and sold at the end of that 4-year period, it would have been a little bit higher because those coins have increased in value, around about 279%. So what does this translate to in numbers and pounds and pence in English? An £18,000 purchase product that uses 1.5 kilowatts of power would have produced over £59,000 in revenue, and if you take out your OPEX cost for electric, around £50,000, hence the 279% return profit is what those numbers dictate to. So the number that is quite attractive because we work it all out in pence per kilowatt. Again, the same thing applies. Instead of sending all the power to the grid, or maybe you've got constrained power, you can use that power on site through the systems, plug in, turn on, do your thing, and effectively, when you boil all of that down, the average return for our clients over a 4-year period was £1.27 per kilowatt, which is ridiculous compared to many other options that are out there. And that's what makes this so attractive, because the uptick of that power is so attractive that it can be so useful for many different situations. So that's an average 4-year earning. If we look back at last year, when the cryptocurrency market and the stock market was all on fire at the back end of COVID, we actually peaked over £3 per kilowatt hour, which is just stupid numbers. So over average periods of time, it can work out quite nice indeed. So all you need is a plug socket and an internet connection. We have lots of remote sites. You don't need crazy fiber internet. You can run these on 4G dongles. We've got them inside wind turbines, storage containers, shipping containers, all over the country, all over Europe. And effectively, this is what it could look like. So one of those machines is the numbers that I just told you about. So one of those £18,000 machines generated over, you know, £56,000 of revenue. So there you can see these clients with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 of them. So you can see how those numbers scale quite dramatically, quite quickly. So we've just got some in someone's basement in a luxury house. We've got them in a maize shed. And again, they use the heat as a byproduct to dry some of the maize for the AD, which is quite clever. And then just an outbuilding, which is quite nice. So again, I'll leave some time for questions as the panel goes on. But I look forward to hopefully answer some, and hopefully that's given you a quick understanding of what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Josh. I think I gained so many knowledge today, thanks to the three of you. So yeah, thank you very much. Do you already have some question in the audience, or may I be the first one asking questions? Okay, we have one there.
Yeah, Josh, how do you cope with technology becoming outdated? I mean, computers are speeding up every 2 years. You're talking about 4-year returns. You're investing £18,000 in a machine, could be outdated in 2 to 3 years. How do you cope with that?
Yeah, it's a common misconception actually in some sectors. So generally speaking, technology moves on very quickly. The brain power of our machines is computer graphics cards. And they're all manufactured by the big company in the world that manufactures them, NVIDIA. So they're a massive American company, and that's kind of what they do. Now, interestingly, they don't self-cannibalize their own market because of the dominant leader. So when a new graphics card comes out, it's generally maybe 20, 30% slightly more efficient, and that's on a 2.5-year production cycle. So in English, what that means is we generally give a 5-year life cycle for our product. So we have clients that bought stuff off us 5 years ago that have already 3 or 4x return on the products that ultimately, at that point, generally buy more equipment and ride with it. But it means that there's not going to be a product coming out on the, you know, that works on graphics cards that next week or next year is twice as good as other stuff. So just to caveat that, everyone that may be vaguely familiar with what I talked about will automatically think of Bitcoin mining. That's something that people have kind of heard. Now, the reason why our machines don't mine Bitcoin, we mine all the other coins, is specifically because of that technology cycle. A Bitcoin mining machine uses a computer chip, and they just, yes, new ones do come out every couple of months. So you buy a new machine and it's out of date in 6 months. So that's why we stick with the graphics card route, because you can mine hundreds of different coins. It's much more flexible to the industry, and you just pick whichever company pays you the most. And also you have a much larger extended technical life cycle, as well as the retained value asset of that product being higher, because graphics cards are worth a lot of money. So we kind of circumnavigate all of that and make sure that you've got products for a good long time. So we estimate a 5-year window is the kind of mindset people should be thinking about for the products.
Do we have other questions? Yeah.
Hi, it's for the, sorry, what's your name? Josh. Hiya, Josh. I'm aware of the, and I'm sure everyone else is, of the international semiconductor chip shortages, and I know that cryptocurrency computer generators require them to a large degree, so I was wondering how are you circumventing or hedging your supply risk in forecast of, you know, having to, I guess, grow and expand as every business would like to do with this oncoming unprecedented issue?
Yeah, so yeah, the silicon conductor chip, obviously, considering all our products have a lot of them in, was certainly a problem for us very much last year. Thankfully, quite frankly, we're over that hump. And as a bizarre kind of positive consequence of the Russia and Ukraine war, if there's such a sentence as a positive thing, is that a lot of the graphics cards or computer chips that were destined for Russia have been embargoed. So they've found their way into the European supply chain. So thankfully, there's been some realm of positivity. So the reality of it is it was very difficult last year, but as of now, it's a complete non-issue.
I have one more quick question just for everyone involved. How do you all see decentralized forms of, I guess, energy creation for the UK's market? Because as you would know, there's a huge untapped potential for it in the global south. We're involved in that as well. But just in the UK specifically, how do you all envision, I guess, a decentralized form of energy security being attained for the UK?
great question. In the UK, so all I can really talk about is what we're working on specifically. So we're working with customers who are similarly turning farms into kind of UK power plants, you know, storage of electricity, and then grid connecting the biogas to the network. So they're generally not putting gas back into the grid just because there's a lot of technical barriers to that in terms of upgrading the gas. So they're usually converting to electricity, storing as batteries, and then putting that back into the grid. And I think biogas has a great part to play in that.
So I think what we've seen since the crisis started is that it's not just the security, it's also the costs that were obviously so detrimental to so many businesses. Therefore, all the big players are trying to have some sort of on-site behind-the-meter generation, whether it would be a CHP, which could sort of run 24/7 if they need it. You know, solar has been very popular. Lots of rooftops have been covered, and battery storage as well. And I guess that's the way to decentralize the country, right? Is if people become a lot more self-sufficient. But that comes with its own sort of challenges, because then it becomes really difficult to balance the grid for the national grid as well. And with our sort of poor infrastructure and everything else, they almost left us no other choice, right? If we can't plug into the grid at the moment, we have to do something behind the meter, and we're sort of naturally decentralizing the system.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to Kristina's comments, I mean, that fundamentally is now where my business and my products have found a unique feature, is that there is so much. Well, we all know the infrastructure sucks, right? I've got clients that have got 2 megawatt hydro sites that don't have a connection to 2032, and they've deployed £15 million of capital and it can't get plugged in. I mean, it's a ridiculous state of affairs. So the reality of it is I'm quite straight when it comes to the commercialization of this. We all want the world to be a greener place. We all want to produce renewable energy, but no one's going to do it unless it's financially, commercially viable to do so. So the top and tail of it is how do we make new green energy deployments commercially viable? And the way that we're working now is we're working in partnership with developers, installers. So go and build a new solar panel array, go and build a new AD site, and it might be that maybe only 40% goes back to the grid because of grid constraints, but it's now commercially viable with a secondary additional product like crypto mining to create private monetization mechanisms for those industries that we can adjust in this transitional period. So I think it's a case of coming up with these smart incentives to be able to commercially make viable the distributed networks that the grid is failing to do so.
Great, thank you all. And do you have still some questions in the audience? I maybe have one for you, Kristina. So your technology is using the blockchain, and we know blockchain uses no, not really.
Sorry, yeah, I don't know what that. I think that's just bad marketing.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not using blockchain. We use so we've got some machine learning in there. Blockchain is a very complicated thing, and I'm not going to sort of touch on that. But so one of our tools, the slider, is basically learning from the market and the market trends and updates itself. So we've got some machine learning within the platform that basically is much smarter than an individual trying to do it themselves. So.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. And yeah, so I had a question for you, Gareth, about so on one of your slides, you were presenting that you can see the performance, the good performance or bad performance of the biogas plants, but you don't provide the biogas plants. So how do you assess what good is it and the performances of each kind of different biogas plants?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, the reason we don't provide biogas plants because we have to be quite agnostic. We're trying to sell to every biogas plant manufacturer. But the benefit, at the moment we've got so many people using it, and actually most biogas plants fall into certain typologies, and then through things like machine learning and analytical techniques, we can start to categorize those biogas plants, and then we know what good performance looks like for those different types of biogas plant. And then the same thing with user behavior. Like user behavior tends to be quite similar actually when it's used for cooking. So you can start to categorize that and then see the anomalies and the errors in that. Yeah. Just going on to blockchain. So a thing that we're interested in at the moment, so we're looking at ways of digitizing carbon credits, or like almost to change from carbon credits to like things like NFTs. So we've got a couple of pilots going on, so creating digital monitoring directly to carbon value for a customer. And we feel the benefit of that is then you don't, I think at the moment you need something like 2,000 biogas plants before you could do a carbon project. And make it cost effective, but using these kind of digital technologies, you can have one biogas plant, and both the customer, the end user, and the biogas business can start to benefit. So hopefully in a year's time, we'll start to have some like decent results from that.
Yeah, and because my question about blockchain was more about the power it needs to work. So. Well, usually in the renewable energy, we want to have blockchain from renewable energy. So my question to maybe you all is, do you think it's possible, and do you think it's something we should push forward?
Well, I mean, that's what my machines are. They're blockchain servers. So yes. So ultimately, when all this crypto is moving around, it operates on the blockchain. So the best kind of methodology for that is the same way that we have internet servers, and somewhere there's a massive warehouse of computers that will serve your websites and your Amazon and your whatever. The blockchain is machines like mine. It's just that the nature of blockchain is it's all decentralized. So in order for NFTs to work on the Ethereum network, you need machines like mine to process the transactions. So it's just a physical infrastructure underlayer, and then all this sexy crypto stuff that goes on top, be NFTs and coins and values and different things, are just different products on that technology. And often there's a very poor understanding of the separation of the two, but the easiest way to frame it in your mind is just that if you think of the internet is the base technology, on top of that is Amazon, eBay, Microsoft, totally different businesses performing totally different business services. That's the same for blockchain. Blockchain is the underlying technology. On top of that sit the various different crypto, we should really call them crypto assets rather than cryptocurrencies, because there's 10,000 different coins and actually only a very small handful have anything to do with currency. So crypto tokens would sit on top, and they all do a myriad of different business services. And that's a better way to understand it. But yes, in terms of that technology going together with renewable, that's a big thing. So globally, about 70% of all blockchain transactions and computer servers are all based on renewable energy sites.
Thank you very much. Does the audience still have some question? So I maybe have another one for you, Josh, or I guess. So why are one of the questions could be, why is it better to have a lot of small decentralized plants, and the other one would be, what's the threshold size of the power you need to install your machines?
So I mean, ultimately that's a question of decentralization. So it's just like all things. It just makes sense, So rather than having one place to keep stuff safe, if you've got 100 places, then there's just less problems to have. So decentralization is a really smart thing in practical terms, but what it offers is it enables individuals or individual businesses or entities or players to get a slice of the cake. So rather than, the best example of this is Amazon again. So most people are familiar with Amazon because you can get your toothbrush delivered from next day delivery, and people think, oh, well, that's how Amazon make the money. Not true. Amazon make the majority of its company profits from AWS, Amazon Web Services, because it owns the servers that run half of the internet. Not a lot of people realize this. Amazon makes its money digitally. Now they have centralized servers, so again, decentralizing that just spreads the money out to various different people. But in terms of what requirements my systems have, one computer is 1.5 kilowatts. You could plug it in at home. So ultimately, you can scale those individual systems and have 1, 10, 50, or 100. So whether you've got 10 kilowatts spare or a megawatt spare, you can just have more physical devices, and then you put them in containers, and the whole thing scales. So that's what's so interesting about it. Because it's decentralized, it's fragmented, and everyone can have a scale that's commercially viable for them.
Thank you very much. I still have one question maybe for you, Kristina. So about I understood, and I hope I understood well, that you provide a tool so for power producer. Do you also provide some service to like support people who are not, who doesn't know anything about trading or selling power and electricity?
Yeah, so I guess what we're trying to do at PPAYA is to show that electricity market isn't as complex as it looks. We've, as I mentioned in my presentation, we've built some tools where generators themselves can, enter their site information and run themselves a power price. So they know that it's not magic. It's just some modeling and some numbers. So empowering the customers to be able to do it themselves, it just gives so much more transparency to the industry. And again, the tools in terms of sort of the supporting the trading is the slider. I guess is the perfect example of once you've run yourself a power price without having to go anywhere, you can do it yourself. Then you can use the slider to see what the probability chance of certain price that you want is. So, for example, if you've got 3 months until your renewal, today you can get £100, but you want 150. Our tool can sort of calculate the probability chance of that higher target price being achieved. And that sort of gives the power to everybody in the industry simply to sort of start and do some trading and a bit of sort of playing around with the volatility themselves. And
so do you like train the people at the beginning just to explain exactly what it means and what's the risk or the
for sure. We have conversations with every single person. So although we try and automate most of the process, we also understand that the industry has to be trained and people have to learn how to use the tool. So we spend one-on-one time with everybody that signs up on the platform, and we make sure that they can use it. And people are now sort of coming to second renewals and sort of year 2 and 3. They're becoming very independent and they enjoy having that sort of power over to do things themselves.
Great, thank you. If we still have time, so maybe my last question for the three of you would be, how long do you need to implement the solution to 180 sites?
I mean, with PPAYA, like the platform's built right, and it's available to everybody straight away. So we basically, all we need to do is for somebody to log in and go live. So it's that easy. So
I think our record for installing hardware was 20 minutes.
Great.
Yeah, I can't match 20 minutes, but yeah, we physically make the stuff in Manchester and then deliver it to site. So depending upon the scale of the order, we can have kit deployed probably about 2 or 3 weeks, and then go from there. So yeah, reasonably period of time. It's not, thankfully, we don't have 6 months waits on conductors anymore, so pretty quick to get your kit online.
Thank you very much. Do we have last question from the audience, or I think we can then wrap up. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. Thank you, the audience, for your attendance and for listening this morning. And enjoy your day in the expo.